Hello and welcome to Vintage Movie Nights. I am Joe. With me, as always, my good friend, Mr. Ryan. Today, we're going to do something a little different. So we decided every 10 movies, that sounds right. Every 10 movies, we are going to sit down and we're going to rank them. We're going to go back through the last 10. We'll rank them. We'll put them on our big ranking tier list ranking board. And then we'll keep track of them 10 after 10 after 10 forever. So this is something we're going to do now. Right now, the plan is for this to eventually be on the Patreon and, for YouTube members. But I figured for the first couple, we'll do it right here on YouTube for you guys. So this is our tier rankings for the last 10 movies we watched, which happened to also be our first 10 movies, which is crazy to think. I think we did our first one in like April, and here we are. And it's like almost a year later, and we've only put out 10 movies. Jeez. So with that, we a little insight. We're learning. We're picking some things up. We're trying to get better. We read the comments. We hear you. Yes, we talk too much. We're trying to be a little bit better, not so yappy. Sometimes we drink a little while we do these. We are of drinking age and so we drink a little, and sometimes it gets a little out of control. So now, we apologize.
He said sometimes we drink. We both drink all the time. Sometimes not. Sometimes not. We get out of control. That has never been a we thing. Joe speaks for himself. I'm kidding, of course.
No. Ryan is out of control. Anyway, so we just
my signature. You've seen this. Have you watched the videos? I have. I say it's a signature thing, but I don't think I've said this in any. I enjoy a drink as much as the next person, unless the next person is Joe Cook. Because nobody enjoys a drink more than Joe Cook. No, I love it when we do this, and I like it when it gets a little out of control. I do like it when it gets a little out of control. It's fun, and but it's true. As much as I agree with all the comments, we got to take it in stride. And so yes, please keep sending us your comments, and we'll get better.
We're trying to. And part of the slow start, we also were having some editing workflow issues. I run a gaming channel. We both have careers. Ryan's a famous movie producer. I said the air quotes. So we've had some challenges getting to this point, but we did bring on a third partner who is helping us edit. So hopefully, Mac, every week we'll have a new episode dropping. If not, you can get mad at Brian. With that, guys, hang on. When the wife texts, you have to take a second to check it. So this is going to be a little bit more loose. We are going to give a little insights as we go. Talk a little bit about maybe some things that happened in that movie that nobody else knows. So this is the fun of it, and this is why at some point we'll put this over on Patreon or as a members. It's kind of an exclusive inside look. But for now, this is a sneak peek as to what happened. So with that, shall we get started?
I am. I'm excited to do this because we will review a movie and we'll do the recording. And then Joe and I will call each other a few days later or whatever. And, I should have said this. I wish I would have pointed out this kind of thing. So this is a good chance to kind of recap and talk about those things.
Exactly. So let's get started with our first movie. The first movie we watched on this channel was Hook. Now, I will say, when we first started Ryan spitballing this idea of Ryan and I talking about let's do these movies, and we originally thought we would just watch old movies separately, make some notes, and then come back and just review them together. And so we picked Hook as our first movie because we were both relatively familiar with it, and we just thought it'd be kind of like a easy one to do. But then as we were getting closer to the first one, I said, hey, why don't we just watch this together, react to it, and then, which is what a lot of other channels were doing at the time. So it just kind of made sense. So that's kind of how this was born. And so Hook probably would not have generally been a choice for either of us otherwise, but
it was very much, it was a pilot. It was very much a pilot.
Yeah. I'll go first. And actually, I pre-wrote them down so I don't forget.
Well, I just so we should tell the audience, because I was asking Joe this, what does each letter mean?
Yes,
what is the criteria? So go over that.
Good point. Yeah, so before we dive in, so here's our criteria. So in a typical tier ranking, it's S is superb, right? These are the best of the best movies. A is great, B is good, C is meh, and D is I didn't really enjoy it. And then there's F, which is Shuttersome. So for those of you who don't know, Ryan and I do make movies, and Shuttersome is a movie we made together. It's one of the worst movies ever made. And I still say, if it ever happens to happen, we hit 100,000 subscribers, we will watch Shuttersome on this channel for everyone. So look forward to that if we hit 100,000 subscribers, which we have 100 now.
Don't
subscribe. We're a long ways away from that. So with that, though, Hook. So when you look at it, S through D, I'll go first. So again, my initial thought, I kept going back and forth on where I would put Hook. Okay. And so I decided that for me, Hook really is a C tier movie.
Okay.
I could take it or leave it. And before we go any further, Ryan and I both, by the way, wrote down what we think each other will pick and where we think each other will rank the movies. So it'll be interesting to see at the end how close we were to each other's thoughts.
That's right. I did write that. I got to pull that up.
So Robin Williams,
yeah,
Dustin Hoffman. For me, Hook is a C movie. I want to put it in the B, but then as I look at the other movies we watched and the other 10, it really does fall to the C level for me. I will say that I was, I think, unfairly... I think there was... We talked a little bit about the CGI or the graphics in it, and we kind of made fun of it a little bit. And going back in my hindsight, I actually think that was a choice by Steven Spielberg to make it have that storybook feel. Again, I'm sure this has all been researched somewhere and someone's probably talked to him about it, but I'm guessing he was going for more of a storybook feel, and that's why it kind of had that cartoony, weird CGI effect when they're like flying and they're coming into Neverland, or when, you know, certain things are happening. There was a lot of redundancy in the movie in places. So for me, I would love to watch it with Riley some point, but I don't see me like being excited to sit down and do it with Riley.
Gotcha.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. So Ryan, where would you put the movie Hook?
Well, yeah, I would rank it a D. It's a D tier for me.
Okay.
I was expecting you would rank it higher. I was expecting it to be a B from you.
I actually had you higher too. I had you at a C. I knew you didn't like it as much as me.
Yeah,
no, actually, I had you as a C.
No, this I remember seeing this in the movie theater. It was a lot of hype, and just as you get older, you know, you kind of look back. And I talked to this about this on the video. Just and this would apply to a few other movies that we reviewed. Given the names involved and the level of talent, you expect more.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. You have Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Steven Spielberg, right? You really do expect more at a higher level. I can appreciate that. And maybe that's a good reason to put it in the D.
You got A-level talent, a director in his prime. Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams, two big stars in their prime. Julia Roberts, a star on the rise.
Julia Roberts, yeah, she's even in there.
She's
Cosmo, whatever his name is. He was in a couple movies we've watched now.
Yeah, the Son. I think they'll be on the next 10.
It'll be in the next 10. Yeah.
What about Bob? A much better movie, by the way.
Yep. A much better movie.
A great supporting performance by Bob Hoskins. But so what? What does it add up to? It's just so uninspired when you just think of Spielberg in his prime. The fact that 2 years later he would direct Jurassic Park. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't hold up for me. It's a disappointment,
and that is actually really fair. So, and that I think partly is why I moved it down to a C, because I originally was thinking it's a B movie, but then I started thinking of the other movies that are in the B tier, and I said no, it's not really in that tier. It's got to come down. So, I'm not surprised yours is at a D. I had you at a C on this, but I suspected a D wasn't out of the realm.
Okay.
So from this, right, we started to actually each person picked every other. We started to alternate weeks.
Right.
So the next week was my movie. So I picked, and I mainly picked this movie because there was a trailer for a redo, right?
A remake, yes.
The remake for Roadhouse. So we chose week 2 to do, or the second movie we chose was Roadhouse. And a big part of that was because because of the Jake Gyllenhaal remake. And I thought, oh, well, we could watch this and maybe we would break our own rules and watch that one at some point. But for me, which I still haven't watched it. So I could say it would still be my first time watching it. But after watching Roadhouse, I'm not sure I want to watch the remake. So for me, this one for me was a solid D. I mean, okay. I couldn't. I have to put this in the D tier. It was a terrible movie. And so, and here's what, so the music is decent, right? The action sequences are good. Patrick Swayze does a fine job. Sam Elliott's great in it. They're fine, right? In fact, if anything, I'd say Patrick Swayze does such a good job that it like maybe even makes me like the movie a little bit less, which is weird to say, right? How many movies do you watch and you go, the main actor did so good, but you're liking it less? It's because when you look at movies, which we're going to talk about here in a second, like Spies Like Us and a few others, they make fun of the movie. It's not a true grounded in reality film. Right. This movie, Roadhouse, I felt like it was trying to be a real movie with real stakes about a bouncer. And it just, for me, I think the writing was terrible. I thought some of the lines were pretty weak. I was laughing at it more than I was enjoying it. And as much as I like pie-in-the-face movies, this was not a good movie for me because of just I couldn't laugh at it because I was too serious. And that's to where the point where I think Patrick Swayze being good in it was actually bad because he was really good in it. And it's too bad because it made it too real. Like it would have been better if it was like Chevy Chase being or not Chevy Chase, but like John Candy, like someone super crazy, big, heavy, fat bouncer, and then like making fun of like Peter Griffin, like doing Roadhouse, right? Like, in fact, that's to make it funny. Like that's looks at where it went. I mean, Family Guy made fun of it, right? So for me,
you're right.
For me, this was a D movie.
Okay.
But the question now is, where did Ryan put it?
So I'm right there with you. I was borderline on this. It would rank, as I said at the end of this, I want to do a 10 through 1 kind of thing. To me, it was very borderline C. Like
okay, I'm surprised.
It just cracked into, for me, for some points that you mentioned. And I don't want to spoil anything movies going forward.
Yeah, by the way, guys, there will be some spoilers for the movies themselves. I'll say that in the beginning. There are spoilers.
Yeah. Roadhouse, I agree with everything you said. The soundtrack is great. The performances are good. It's trying to be a real movie. It does not succeed. I know I'm giving it like it's okay movie. It's like a C minus. All right, can I just say it is a C minus movie? Right. I just remember watching this with you, and you held out pretty long before you broke character. I remember you just losing your shit and just like laughing, like you couldn't contain it anymore. In the closing scene where Patrick Swayze invades the mansion and he pushes the bear. The bear falls on top. And he's like, and you start laughing.
That was it. That was it.
I would watch this over Hook and one other movie on this list just for the sheer "it's so bad it's good" factor. And that is what for me. It's not a good movie. It's a C minus, and it barely. I have one other movie on this list in the C category, and when we get to that movie, I'll say that is a C plus versus this a C minus. It barely cracks the C category for me.
I had a hard time. I mean, I definitely, this was an easy D for me, like just straight D. And which is weird because I'm a pie in your face. Don't really give me I'm not a huge, need a lot of context to like a movie.
But when it's trying to be a drama, which it was, you're right. It's trying to be real.
That bothered me.
It's hard. It's tough.
If they made this more like Spies Like Us, it would probably have been much higher ranked for me.
Okay.
Now, this is crazy because, so here's the thing, guys. You can fillet us in the comments. Tell us we're crazy, right? Put it in the comments. You guys are crazy. Because this is a cult. People love this movie. I've had a lot of people tell me, I loved Roadhouse.
Mm-hmm. I think it's to the credit of Patrick Swayze's charm in the lead and in a charming supporting performance by Sam Elliott.
So with Kelly Lynch, being the female actress, the main lead, the love interest, that was another main issue I had in the movie. Their chemistry happened so quickly. There was not enough lead up. All of a sudden, they're sleeping together. Now, seeing her half naked, and she's definitely looks good. Seeing, which actually, there's another movie I think she's in I think she was in Cocktail too, right?
She had a supporting.
And we see a nice butt shot of her, which was good. But there's some good nudity. There's some fun scenes. Patrick Swayze and his weird, out in the yard with the sweat glistening off his body. I'm sure all that's great, but it just, for me, that's a D movie.
There was also the fact that this town that he's in consists of 4 locations.
Exactly.
A house, a farm, a bar, and randomly a car dealership that the monster truck drives through. What was going on?
There was no cops in the town at any point.
No, except the end when the movie concludes and the cops show up because the movie's started. So you're right, it's a bad movie, but I would get more entertainment out of watching it than some of these other movies.
Yeah, and that's fair.
So for that reason, yeah.
So you were next.
So movie number 3 that we did, I want to say week 3, but we did this not weekly. Movie number 3 that we reviewed was the 1977 cult sports classic Slapshot with Paul Newman as the coach and head player of a minor league team in the 70s that is going bankrupt, and it kind of happens from there, and it's a wonderful supporting array of players, and I love this movie. And my opinion on this may be a little biased because I'm a hockey fan, but I've got a few other evidence to back this up. While I don't rank this movie as an S, it's not.
I'm surprised.
superb.
I thought you were going to put it in the S category.
It's not in the S category, but it is in the A category. But and again, we'll do rankings. I have 3 movies in the A category on this, and this would probably be third in those movies, which we'll rank them 10 through 1. What I like about this movie is not only is it funny, but it has a real world feel to it. And when I asked you to send me the movies for this 10 that we were doing, Joe and I have done a lot of movies now, and there was a few movies that I didn't remember if they were in our top 10 or not. No, I knew we did them, but I didn't know if they were going to be a part of this show. One of those was Major League.
Right,
it's a very the next 10, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be in the next 10.
And that's a very comparable movie to this one because they're both sports comedies. They're both a little outrageous. And spoiler alert, when we get to this, I might probably rank Major League in the B category. It's a good movie. What I like about Slapshot is, as over the top as it is, it has a very bland, real world feel to it. It feels like these people are real characters.
Steel City, right? Very realistic.
That Midwest kind of feel to it. Even as crazy as the Hanson brothers are, it feels like these could be real players.
It's because they were.
Especially in the 70s.
Right.
70s minor league, which maybe some of the calls, I don't know how much of a teachable movie this is. I think I asked you this question on Major League. How realistic is it to baseball?
I don't even remember watching Major League, to be honest with you. That's a whole nother story. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it in the next 10.
Behind the scenes, full on Patreon video. For
exactly. Oh, man.
With Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Commenting, audio commentary on Major League from Joe for the Patreons.
Yeah,
what was going on here? He doesn't remember. Anyway,
we'll talk about that later.
Talk about that later. I think it's a well-made film, and anytime you can have that real-world feel and still have all this comedy. My criticism, it's a tad long. It runs over 2 hours for a sports comedy. That's a little long, I think. There's some parts that maybe drag a little bit, but just a winning performance by Paul Newman, and just the realistic feel and vibe to minor league hockey, especially in the 70s. It's a tad over the top, but I'm just a fan of this movie.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's an A. Yeah.
So that surprised me a little. I kind of expected you to go S on it. For me, I'm going to echo it. I gave this an A. But I will be honest, it almost slipped into the B, right? It was like right there at the A, B. I did give it an A, right, originally? Yes, it was in the A category. It almost slipped into the B. And partly it was long, but more so, and to your point, it is real. And the realism is in the fact that it was written, and I only know this because of the great comments we got. This is Slapshot is the #1 video of all the ones we've done, and it's probably also the one we've taken the most criticism for never shutting up and just talking a bunch of nonsense throughout the whole movie. And admittedly, I got a little bit tipsy during this movie.
It's okay.
And it wasn't until I went back and re-edited it that I was like, oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember that happening. Like, so it wasn't my best moment for sure. And it was like a learning experience as far as, okay, how do we do this? Because see, remember we just come off a Hook and Roadhouse, and we're trying to figure out copyright. And Roadhouse was a real pain to get through copyright. It really, really was a challenge. And so then when we did Slapshot, I was just like, like,
right. I think the first 3 were kind of practice runs.
Yeah. But as far as the movie goes, very real. I still think the ending's a little bit chinky, just the forfeit. I think the way they did it was great, and it's what makes it so fun. But it was real characters in a steel city that was failing, but they weren't heroes. They weren't like you look at, we'll use Major League Baseball because it's probably the best comparison.
It's the perfect comparison, yeah.
Wild Thing, he's like a hero, right? He's like the hero. I'm sitting over here singing his song when he comes out. He's the hero, whereas Paul Newman, he was great, but he was a little bit of a villain in this, even though he was the hero.
And that's why I say no spoiler
The hero was
alert.
Like the big wussy.
Right. The spoiler alert, I'm going to rank Major League a B, but it's not a bad thing. Major League is still a really good, funny movie. But this was just another level of filmmaking. When you can put a real-world story into it, it just elevates it a little bit.
And it's because it was based on real-world characters from real-world minor league teams. So for me, solid A. Definitely enjoyed the movie and would watch it again. For 1977 especially, it really does stand very, very well.
Mm-hmm. I just remember, again, we were watching this, and I don't know why. I've had some beers. The fact that, it can be so real world and yet have the final game where the guy's lining up for the opening face-off, and he's up against that big Indian guy.
Right.
Who's standing there in the war paint and chasing him down. And, oh, shit! And he's going to run away. And it's I don't know what it is about the direction on that. I could believe that this would happen in a real game. It never would. But I believe it in this movie.
It's so true. It's a great experience. And then even with the Hanson brothers, they're real players. They were.
Oh yeah.
It's just very well done. So the next movie was my choice. And when I say Ryan has watched every movie ever made, that's not hyperbole. That's like a legit thing. I literally will send him 30 to 40 text messages. Have you seen this movie? Have you seen this one? How about this one? And I'm sitting here digging hidden gems of the 80s and movies nobody's seen in the 90s, just looking, and I looked through so many messages. Now, I think I found one other one, but this one, he said, no, I don't think I actually have seen this. And I was like, I got one. And it's one that I had seen, which is also very rare for me to have seen a movie that Ryan has, and not just as a movie that I had seen. It's a movie I generally remember enjoying. And so I forget the year, but it was the movie Spies Like Us, starring Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase. And it's a comedy, basically after the Cold War, where they're spies trying to infiltrate and change the course of history through, trying to stop a nuke. Let's just call it that what it is. But here's the thing. It's a comedy with just a touch of realism to make you kind of think, maybe this could happen, but really not. It's really that it's not. The thing is it's not really a parody because it's not like Spaceballs, right? A parody of Star Wars. So it's not really like a parody of like a James Bond type movie. It's just a silly comedy about being a spy and not being good spies at that. So for me, this movie, and it's going to be some bias because I remember watching it with like my stepdad, and my mom and my brother. And I remember watching this as a kid thinking it was hilarious. And I will still say, while the comedy is slow at times, that it actually is kind of memorable and funny. So for me, I give this movie a B. Which is probably a surprise, but this is in the B tier for me. I know, Ryan. It's all right. This is definitely a D tier for Ryan.
I've zoned out. I'm making my ranking for the end of the movie while you're talking about your nonsense.
Yes, no. This is a B tier for me. Some of the most memorable scenes, right, are definitely when he's taking the test. I mean, that's just absolutely hilarious. Or when he's driving the Jeep and it's like they get surrounded and he like, your turn to drive. I mean, there's just moments like the scenes like Doctor. It's a classic scene. I think it's slow in its delivery, but it is kind of funny and it's definitely campy 80s comedy. Ryan that day was tired. He was not feeling his normal enthusiasm. And, I don't know. I think he's going to be unfair to it a little bit, but that's my bias. I actually thought I think Spies Like Us is a funny little movie. I mean, at the end of the world and they're like, hey, you want to get it on? And, and then the two guys go, I mean, it's just a great little 80s comedy. Spies Like Us. I put it's not a solid B, right? It's a B minus, but it's in the B tier for me.
He's already got it set up. No, it's a D. This was the worst movie I think we watched. Maybe there was a reason I hadn't seen it. I think
he just subconsciously knew it was going to be terrible.
Joe gave examples of the only two. I don't even want to call them. I don't even want to call them funny scenes. They were semi-funny scenes.
Them dressed up as aliens. Come on.
No, it wasn't funny.
I think you were asleep at that point.
I might have been. Yeah, there might have been a reason. The doctor. It's funny twice, but saying it 47 times is not very funny. And again, I talk about the level of talent. Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, the director, John Landis.
Yes.
All three of these men can do and did do better comedies in their careers.
Of course.
That cannot be denied. I rank this in the tier with Hook, but at least Hook was trying for something, and it might have failed. What was this movie trying for? I don't think it was trying for anything. It was trying for comedy. Well, it was trying for comedy
about the Cold War.
It's a comedy about the Cold War. No, it had no destination. It was a complete dead zone. At least Roadhouse, a movie that tried to be a drama and failed, you could laugh at. You can't laugh at a bad comedy because Roadhouse wasn't trying to make us laugh, and so we laugh at it. This was trying to make us laugh. I didn't really laugh. So
they're spies, but not like us.
Shut up. No.
I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it, what you're saying.
Move on to the next movie.
All right. Well, next up, I think was your movie then.
So the next movie that we did was the 1988 box office hit film, Cocktail with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, my boy.
Yes. So this was an interesting one. I'll go first since it was my movie. Curious to see what you have to say, Joe. Because this, for me, was on the higher end of the C scale.
Okay.
I thought it was a decent movie overall. And I think that we can both agree on this. Now, I don't know what way you're going to go with this, but I think we can both agree that this was maybe the most uneven movie that we watched in all of these movies. It started with a certain vibe and a certain intensity, a certain energy, and then it kind of just goes in a different direction, whether you agree with it or not, and whether you like it or not. Boy, does this have a different second half to it. It starts out as a fun, upbeat romp, and it kind of becomes very depressing in the second half of this movie. And I don't think I like that. But on the basis of the first half of the movie, I can't say it's a good movie because of its unevenness, but I wouldn't really call it a bad movie. So this is like a very C-level movie for me.
Yep. Yeah. So when we picked it and you said we were watching Cocktail, I was excited because I thought, hey, Cocktail, I remember Cocktail being a fun good movie. That's what I remember. I remember really enjoying Cocktail. However, I'm going to put Cocktail very squarely in the C category for me.
Right.
And part of that is because, just like you said, I swear the writer ran out of cocaine and went on a dark bender and finished this movie, because legit, the first half is great. I love the first half. I wanted to be a bartender because of the first half. I must not have remembered the second half as a kid, because that is dark. There's suicide. It is brutally bad in my opinion. The second half of this movie is brutal. So for me, it's a C movie only because the first half carries it. Because if it wasn't for the first half, this would be a D movie. It was not good. It has a cute little ending. I love the idea of throwing bottles and I thought that was cool, and all the and sleeping with the girls and all that was all great. But for me, it was just that turn.
All the bottle flipping is in the first half, and then it kind of takes this detour to Jamaica, which is fun to look at a little bit. But God, does it get dark? Yeah,
Doug, takes his girl from him. They go to Jamaica. He goes to Jamaica to get away, and the rider runs out of cocaine, and this thing just goes whoosh down into the drip.
When you say suicide, I'm talking the actor Brian Brown, who does do a really good job as Doug. I'd like a very close up of him slitting his throat in the blood. It's like, oh my God,
gruesome. We went from a fun, kind of comedy, fun scenes. He's like, my young Padawan, I'm going to show you everything there is. Right. And then he murders himself because he gets into like drug debt and debt with his girl, and he's married to Carrie Lynch, which you do get a nice booty shot, by the way. But Cocktail is just a dark. It has a great start, but man, it does get dark. For me, that's a C movie. I watched that when I was like 12 years old. I don't know what my parents were thinking. I guess it was a different time. Right.
No, and it's so funny because you go back and you watch any trailer from the 80s, it's like all scenes from the first half of the movie, which are so great and so committed by Tom Cruise and Brian Brown as the older bartender, because you could tell the way they film it.
Yeah, the choreographed dances.
Yeah. They learned how to do that, and you can tell. And that takes commitment. They're both great in it, but it's just the writing just goes downhill.
It was rough. Needless to say, on that one.
So we're in agreement. C.
I think that's the first one we've agreed on.
Well, we agreed on Slapshot.
Yeah. Okay. So next, I was able to pick a movie, and I'm not sure even why I chose this one, to be honest. I feel like between Cocktail and The Burbs, it was kind of like we both chose. We kind of texted each other and said, let's pick this movie. So the next one we did was Tom Hanks in The Burbs, which I also get very confused with Money Trap, which is what I think I thought I was picking. But then it turned out to be The Burbs. And I'm going to check my notes because I wanted to check this. Yeah. So The Burbs is what we ended up picking. Tom Hanks, some other characters, and it's a suburbia film. It's a farce. It's funny. It's not meant to be anything serious. So, for me, this was another B movie. Ahead of Spies Like Us, but solid B. B plus, could have possibly moved into the B, a solid B movie. The Burbs, it had some really funny moments. It also has some really campy, silly, like kind of like the with the cameras like pumping into their face, and he's like about the bone. I mean, that's just like silly, over the top stuff. But it fit the tone of the movie, and that's what I think makes it for me. Is that really fits the tone of the film. Whereas you look at like Roadhouse, the tone doesn't fit the writing and what it's trying to do. So Tom Hanks, The Burbs, that was a solid B movie for me. And honestly, I think as far as editing, this was probably one of the hardest ones for me to edit. This and Roadhouse, to get it through copyright. I think I did like 9 edits. And this is where I started to really go, dude, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I'm not that good of an editor. So we might need to find somebody. But The Burbs for me was solid B, maybe almost a B plus.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I liked it quite as much as you did, but I would still put it in the B category. For me, it's more of probably a B minus. but I agree with most of what you're saying. It's campy. I don't think it's meant to be anything superb, whereas you could tell films like Cocktail and Roadhouse were trying to reach this dramatic level of,
Right.
trying to, this was not meant to be that. It doesn't really have serious moments. It's meant to be a campy mystery, I guess. Mystery would be the way to do a mystery comedy.
Mystery thriller, maybe, I guess. I don't comedy thriller.
But it was not
it's a cult classic for sure, right?
Yeah, it was not attempting to take itself seriously, and so you can't really judge it on that level. Which movies like Cocktail and Roadhouse, and maybe even to a degree Hook, that was more of a fantasy movie, you can kind of judge. This was a comedy, and unlike Spies Like Us, this one made me laugh. It was fun. I like Tom Hanks. I like Tom Hanks. I like Bruce Dern. I even like Carrie Fisher, Carrie Fisher plays Tom Hanks' wife. I forget
she's a
the
pretty
actor's,
solid basic character in it.
She's a pretty solid, basic character. I like the family that when they finally do go into the house, all the three weird dudes who play that. This
the neighbor Brian McConnell, I kept calling him, which nobody knows who that is, but it's a friend of ours. But like that's just he's the one who is the catalyst to all the crazy.
It was Rick Dukakis was the name of the actor.
Rick Ducommun. He put the art. Yeah, he obviously didn't go on and do a whole lot of stuff.
He was not as popular. Bruce Dern would go on and do more, and Carrie Fisher.
Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman has kind of a funny part in it.
As the young neighbor who paints houses.
That was just an odd, right?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good in this movie. I don't think for me you could rank it above a B, but I don't think it's trying to be above the B tier. It is what it is, and we'll rank all of these from 10 to 1 at the end. For me, it's right there in the middle, and it's a decent movie, and it was fun, and I was happy that we watched it. So then we go into a string of horror movies that we did. It was around Halloween time, not that they posted around then.
No, we don't post anything within 4 to 6 weeks.
It was around Halloween time, so we did.
That's why we have Mac now.
Mac is much better at editing than us. And we watched Child's Play was our next film, which was interesting because it was the first film that we watched that spawned a franchise, and so there was a lot to talk about with really having such an iconic character. I mean, the closest thing we had done was Hook, but those were more literary characters that were in that movie. This was there had never been a Chucky before Child's Play. But we watched the original Child's Play, which Joe had never seen. Obviously, everybody knows Chucky, even if you've never seen Child's Play. Everybody knows Chucky, and that he runs around
exactly
and kills people.
I knew he was a doll who was going to kill people.
Right. So for me, this would rank on the higher end of the B tier for me. It's a good movie. I appreciate it as the start of a franchise because I think anyone who has seen any other Child's Play, or as it's now called Chucky, movie or show, there's TV shows, there's spin-offs, there's all these Chucky things, sees Chucky as the front and center main character who's killing people. And while that's fun and good, what I love that Child's Play does is although we see the doll, we do not see him in his quote-unquote human form until well into halfway through the movie. It's good suspense, and although it might look cheesy watching it back, knowing what you know now about Chucky, judging it without all that in mind, just as a movie, I think it is a good thriller, as cheesy as it may be in its second half. And I think it's a good film.
You are spot on. That was one of the best parts of the movie. Because I put myself in, was it a 78 or 80? No, it was an 80s. It was like sometime in the 80s, wasn't it?
Late 80s, yeah.
Late 80s. You sit down, you have no internet, you've seen maybe a commercial, a poster, right? You would have not had a lot to go on. Not like today where, movies have 3 different trailers that launch and you watch them on YouTube and you can go, frame by frame and get excited about it. No, this is back in, before all of the fun stuff, before the internet. for me, that is a part of what makes this movie good, because it was I could imagine sitting there watching it, not really knowing what happens, not really understanding what was going to happen next, and going from there. And so because of that, I put Chucky pretty solidly in the B tier. Right there with great films like Spies Like Us, The Burbs, Chucky. I don't like horror films, so that's always going to weigh it down a little. I am not a big. I don't like to be scared. I prefer comedies in general. But Child's Play was a fun film that really created a whole franchise. I think it stands up pretty well. There's a few chinky moments from an 80s film, but it does really well the horror the horror slasher genre very well. I think Child's Play is a great film. And I think everybody should sit down and watch it. And here's the thing, I'd never seen it. So going in, I never seen it, but this is 2025 now. At 24 when we watched it, it was obviously, I knew who Chucky is. I know he's going to go around. He's going to stab people. I had kids coming to my door that Halloween 20, 30 years later dressed as Chucky, right? So, I mean, that alone makes it stand up for something. So for me, Child's Play, solid B. Could have been an A movie. I was very close to an A. So it was like right there on that line between an A and a B for me.
I would just think, if anyone who hasn't watched this, I know that you know who Chucky is, and you've probably seen some of the other spin-offs. Go into this movie wiping that from your mind as best you can. And like Joe said, try to watch it without any knowledge. And I know that's hard because he's such an iconic character. And you can appreciate the craft in this movie. Because they could have easily had him running around in the opening scenes, but they wait. And they build, and they build, and they build until when Catherine Hicks, who gives a good performance in this movie as the mom.
Catherine Hicks is very good.
Opens the doll, and it turns around, and now it's on. And the opening lines of Chucky, he's very foul-mouthed in this movie.
Yes. The batteries fall out, and she's like, what? And then, the doll and its head turns. I mean, it's a great... And all the point of view shots that they do where they're, like, tracking through the house, and they leave you a little doubt that the kid could have killed the babysitter. It was highly unlikely. And then they do give you the flower on the doll's foot, so you got to be like, okay, what's going on? But definitely a good movie, worth the watch for sure. It's a well-done movie.
It's a well-done film for sure. Yeah.
One day I'll watch, and my daughter says her dolls are alive, so it makes me a little nervous. Yeah. Now from there, I picked the movie, and we were still in the Now this was post Halloween, but we were still in the Halloween mood, and so we sat down, and I actually asked my wife on this one. I said, "Honey, you like scary movies. This is Halloween time. What would you recommend?" And she goes, "Well, Halloween, duh. Like, it's Halloween. You watch Halloween." So Jamie Lee Curtis, Jason, whoever the character was that played him, I don't think you ever know.
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers. Did I say Jason? Yeah, Michael Myers, whatever. The guy with the mask, terrible, terrible guys. And we watched Halloween. Halloween for me, was a C movie.
Okay.
I liked it, and it was close to a B, but I put it in the C category because it was too artsy for my taste. Okay. So it was I kept thinking it reminded me of a student-led film, very artsy, very long tracking shots, very long into the... the opening scene is great, right? The kid kills his naked sister, that was great. And the nudity and the sex, I mean, right out of the gate, it's a typical 80s horror film. You're excited for it, but there was a lot of slows. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis was great in it. And we said it during the movie. Some of the supporting actresses were less good, but okay. And there was fine suspense, and there was definitely a couple jump scares. But for me, it was just a very... it was just a very artsy Halloween movie, and it was fine. I'd watch it again, but for me, it wasn't nearly at the level that Child Play was. So when you start putting these into these categories, for me, what was interesting enough was, well, this one can't be in this category because that other movie was better, but that other movie can't be in the upper category because that movie was better. So that's to me why, I mean, this was definitely not on the level of like Spies Like Us. So this is definitely, I'm going to keep going back to that. This was definitely for me a solid C movie, C plus, B minus, could have been on the line, but for me was a B, was a C movie.
Okay. Well, I shun you for saying that it's worse than Spies Like Us. We're not going to talk about Spies Like Us, but no, interesting that you rank it ahead of Child's Play. I would rank it beneath Child's Play.
No, I did. I put it below Child's Play.
I would rank it above Child's Play.
Would you?
I like both movies though. And I guess, yeah, this would be the second movie where we were talking about a franchise.
It did spawn a franchise.
It did spawn a franchise. I think we just are very different in what we like and dislike about the artistry of a film. Because you're
very,
right,
very different.
It's a very much slow build. And in a different way than Child's Play. The anticipation is there. I think you know what's about to happen. But with Child's Play, seeing the doll lifeless and then having him come to life, Michael Myers, you see him a lot in the film, but it takes a while for him to like do anything.
He doesn't really do anything even when he does something. He's very just... I
think that for me, because this did really spawn the slasher franchise. We talk about Child's Play being a slasher movie, and it's a different kind of slasher movie because we bring all these supernatural elements with the doll and everything,
and the voodoo and all that stuff.
The voodoo and all that stuff. Yeah, but there were some slasher films before Halloween, but this really revolutionized it.
Yeah.
And you look at everything that came after it, and for me, it's garbage. Whereas this, like, I don't know what it is about Halloween, because you're right. And I don't know. I guess this is just that we're different, and it comes down to taste. Because there's not much of a story. It's very basic. It's very simple. It's simplistic. The acting is good amongst the two leads, Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance, who are both good.
Yep.
You're right. The supporting cast is not all that great. I don't know.
The soundtrack was good. The
theme,
that's
yeah,
pretty decent. Yeah.
And Jordan Carpenter's direction and the cinematography and everything is good. I don't know. I guess just this.
I think there was 30 minutes of them walking on the sidewalk, like throughout the entirety of the movie. They were walking a lot. Like, we're gonna walk, and this is where I go back to. It reminds me of this. Okay, I'm gonna make a thesis. It's gonna be my film thesis. And we're gonna do a horror film, but I rent it. It actually reminds me a little bit of JPR, like a movie we made where we had a cool dolly. So we're gonna use the dolly in every scene, even if we don't need it. We're using it. We have it. We need to use it. I don't care if it doesn't work in this scene. We have to use the dolly.
Well,
so it's like, okay, she's walking down the street. That's good. Let's get a 30 minutes of her walking down the street while we wait for something to happen. Like, that's what it was to me. It was a thesis film.
The difference is in our movie it did not work. In this movie it did work.
Jeremy Lee.
It looks beautiful.
Tremendous. Well, yeah, it was a tremendous. I mean, it is. That's why this is a whole nother level, right? That's why we don't have an F tier, because we made movies that are in the F tier.
Yeah. No, I would rank it. I think it's a beautiful looking film. But I don't know. I also have to kind of agree with you, but I'm not going to change my decision. So it's
where do you put it?
It's an A movie for me.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, not to discredit anything you said about it, which was Spies Like Us. I discredit everything you said about that.
You shunned me at Spies Like Us. You're like, I shunned you. Look, I honestly, I'm joking. I think Spies Like Us is a funny movie. We're not going to talk about it, but I do think it's a funny movie. And I can see why you would put Halloween as an A. Like, I think Halloween is one of those weird enigmas of a movie that you could go in and think it was a good movie, a great movie. You could go in and think it was a good movie, or you can go, that's all right. It was kind of scary at times. I mean, there was moments like Jamie Lee, I mean, she stabs him with a hanger. I mean, that's cool. Like, he gets shot, falls out the window, and disappears. I mean, you start to borderline supernatural at some point. Like, is he like superpowered? And I feel like knowing about the franchise and where it goes, that kind of becomes like he just can't be killed, which is a weirder thing. But I'm with you. I'm with you. And there's nothing that needs to be said. If you like it there, and this is the beauty of these tier rankings, as you can see, we watch the same movies, but we have varying differences just because of personalities and whatnot. I think that's what makes this so fun.
So continuing our horror theme, I think this is well after Halloween, but I was still in the Halloween vibe. So I said, let's do like
I think we watched it closer to... Yeah, I think we watched it closer to Halloween, but like it would be, well, it's still not, well, as the time of recording this, it's scheduled to come out. So this film will be dropping in February, in basically February, in a couple days. Sorry, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we were kind of continuing on with this Halloween themed horror genre kind of thing. And so I was, why don't we do a very prestigious horror film? And so we watched the classic film, The Exorcist. So I will kick this off. And yes, you talk about an S movie. For me, it's an S. I mean, how can it be anything other than an S? This film, from what we've watched, is, I don't even want to rank it in the horror genre, just as a film. I don't know what I can say about it that's bad. It's just this well-crafted film as a horror, as a mystery, as a detective movie, as a drama. This cold, bland emptiness it has, the lack of visual effects that it has, the practical effects that make it so gruesome, and the makeup job on the little girl. I just can't say enough about this movie. So let me hear what you have to say about it, and then we'll talk more.
Okay,
it's an S. It's a top. It's the top for me.
So I have gone back and forth 1,000 times on this. I want to put it right here.
Okay.
I'm going to put it here, but I'm going to put it in a category here in a second. But this is where I would want to put it. Like, it is an S, but it's also an A. And partly the reason is because it scared the shit out of me. Excuse my language. And I don't like that. I don't like to be scared. This movie has sat with me more than any other movie. I think about it more than any other movie. So with that, clearly, I'll tell you why I want to put it in
it means it did its job.
Yeah. So I'm going to put it in the S. I'm going to put it in the S tier for sure. One of the reasons I wanted to put it in the A tier was there was a couple things about it that I didn't like. And so to say this was a superb, amazing, perfect movie, there are two things in it that bothered me. I did not like the opening with Iraq. Not that there was anything against it. It just never really panned out in the writing. You could have started with the car driving on the bridge, heading into New Jersey or wherever this is taking place, Philadelphia or Washington or wherever, right? You could have started with that shot and the credits running right then. We didn't need that 20 minutes prior to. So that was number one, because that never really turned into anything. It never panned out. It never connected to the end. I know that the little totem, whatever, was found at the end, but it never really connected for me. Like, as an audience member watching it for the first, this was the first time I'd ever seen it.
Right.
So for me, sitting back watching it, I never saw that. The second one was the makeup towards the end of the movie. Her makeup at the end of the movie got a little bit over the top, a little bit unrealistic. In the beginning, it was phenomenal. Okay. So the best parts about this movie is the realism. It takes place in the daytime. Almost 90% of the movie's in the daytime. Yeah. It's bright. When everything is flying out the window and all heck is breaking loose inside the house, that's in the daytime. It's bright. It's not a dark. And that, as a filmmaker, is amazing, because those are like those types of scenes where it's bright. All the imperfections are seen. When we talk about sometimes filming a movie at night, you can get away with something's in the background you don't want them to see because it's dark. You're not going to see everything. You can use shadows and things to your advantage. This is a bright movie just shot right in the middle of the day. The The Exorcist is a great movie. It is definitely an S tier. The only reason I want to move it into A tier is it scared me. I didn't like Iraq, and the music part kind of, or not the music, sorry, the makeup towards the end only was a little bit too much. But the rest of it, phenomenal. Definitely an S tier movie.
I want to talk about I think the middle thing that you said there was that so much. The final exorcism where they go in takes place at night.
It's all at night, yeah.
But so much of this, you're right, with the head spinning around and the mom going into the room. Not only is it in daylight, but there's no musical score. It's just the rawness of like
very raw.
I know you and I are not really spiritual people, but I think maybe you might agree. If demonic possession was real, it might look like this.
I think it is real. I believe in this stuff. So like that sat with me for even more. Like,
well, there you go.
I don't like that stuff. And it was what they did was real. It wasn't a bunch of CGI. It's not like Ghostbusters, right? Like I watch Ghostbusters. I'm like, haha, that's funny because it's so fake.
Oh no.
This was real. Too raw. I didn't like it because I loved it, but I didn't like it because it was too real, and it has sat with me. It reminds me of the Exorcist of Emily Rose or Brown or whatever that movie was. That sat with me for. It's still. I wake up at 3 a.m. and I have to wait a minute to get out of bed if it's 3 a.m. Yeah. This.
Yeah, it's a
ghost
top tier
movies freak me out. Top tier
movie. Yeah. I don't think there's much else to say about it, so let's do our final one, right?
So the next film we watched, and actually this we watched before all the horror movies, but would come out later because we thought in our head we'd somehow get the horror movies out before Halloween or around Halloween, or at least before Christmas or before 2025, or which none of that happened, which thanks to Mac, we're kind of catching back up. In fact, Mac halfly edited Halloween. He was responsible for Exorcist, and we did hear the comments. We took it down and re-edited it. He also did what you'll be seeing, Beverly Hills Cop, which is which we're about to talk about. What about Bob, and so forth and so on. But we watched Beverly Hills Cop. Now, Ryan and I both had seen this, but I hadn't seen it in my adulthood, so to speak. Right? I had seen it as a kid, and I thought it was a great movie then. I still think this is a great movie. This, for me, is also an S-tier movie. Okay. And it's a simple, really solid buddy cop, even without the buddy, just a good cop flick. Watching this back in editing, or watching this back after editing, and just anytime I see it, the laugh, the music, the story, it just is such a good film. For me, this is when it comes to like a cop film, this is probably the best. Like I don't know that there's going to be another S-ranked cop movie that would fall into this, with the exception of in about 10 years, 15 years, when we can watch Bad Boys. Bad Boys, from what I recall, was one of those really special good movies. Yeah. This one, Eddie Murphy is phenomenal in this. It's just all of it. It's just, I thought it was a really good, it makes you laugh, you enjoy it. There's suspense. It's, it's a good movie. This is an A for me. Top tier movie, or an S for me. Sorry. Top tier S movie.
I went back and forth with this earlier today. And I wanted to do what you did. So put it on that line between S and A.
Okay.
You did that for The Exorcist. Right? And I was like, it is probably the best.
I am going to make you decide one here in a second, but for now we'll leave it here while you talk about it.
I'm going to. It's probably the finest action comedy that I can think of. When you think,
I would agree.
Action comedy. Now you can't really call it a buddy cop movie because he doesn't have a buddy. The two Taggart and Rosewood, but they're supporting characters. But it's the same type of thing, right? It follows the same formula as all of that. And I love the simplicity of it, that it's an easy plot to follow. Mm-hmm. It's not over the top like a James Bond movie where it's like, okay, you don't know the corporate espionage or anything. The guy is smuggling stuff, and it's very easy to follow. And just the realism. We talked about that in The Exorcist. This has a realism to it that you could believe that this would be a story on the news that you might see in spite of the comedy. I don't know. That being said, I put it in the A tier.
Okay.
But it is the top top of the two other movies in my A tier.
Which surprised me because I actually thought for when I looked at what I predicted for you, I had your S tier being Exorcist and Slapshot. I mean, I think ultimately I'm with you. I think it's a good movie. It's just a good movie, and it's a fun movie, and it makes you just feel
very
good.
fun movie.
So with that, why don't we? So we both wrote down each other's predictions. I'll start with yours. I'll tell you what I thought you were going to do. This is what I actually thought was going to be how you were going to rank the films. We'll see how many I got right. I got my notes right here. Okay. We'll see how many I got right, and then we'll do this. We'll flip on yours, and then we're going to go through and we'll rank these 1 through 10.
Okay.
Top movie to least of these 10.
Okay.
So I had your S tier as being Exorcist and Slapshot. I thought because of your hockey roots and just how much you love the movie and how many memes you sent to me of that movie, that was going to be an S tier movie for you. Okay. So that one was my biggest surprise, I think, is that was an S tier. For your A tier, I had Child's Play and Beverly Hills Cop. So I was close. Halloween, Child's Play, I had those mixed. For your B tier, I had Cocktail, Halloween, and The Burbs. So Cocktail's the one that dropped below that, and Halloween I was a little off. For your C tier, I thought you were going to put Hook and Spies Like Us, and then I thought your T tier was going to be Roadhouse. I thought you were going to find some comedy in Spies Like Us. I guess there just was none.
None. I think I was right on your D tier. I remember you not liking Roadhouse.
Yeah, I did not like Roadhouse. It was not any good.
Yeah, I think that was the only movie I suspected was gonna. Everything else, I thought you at least thought was okay. So I think I was right. I think I was right in that. The C tier, I thought Cocktail. I was right on that. Mm-hmm. I actually thought Child's Play was going to be there too. You liked that a little bit better than I had remembered you liking it.
Yeah, it's funny. It even is doing this and going back. If I were to go back and watch it, like I bet you during like these videos when we're done with them, I'm like, oh, those were so good. Like some of these, like if you look at my rankings I gave them at the time of them watching the movie, may not even fully match how I feel about it today. Well, and it's only when you take the other 9 movies that we watched and saying, okay, well, how does it compare tier wise, right?
Right. Was kind of a B tier. I was surprised and pleasantly surprised that you dropped Hook down because I didn't like Hook. I remember you liking that when we watched it.
I thought about putting it in the B, but I also didn't want every movie being in the B tier, so I had to kind of make some adjustments.
I predicted the majority of these were going to be in the B tier for you. Spies Like Us. Yep.
It's a B tier movie.
No, it's not. And I was hoping, I predicted you would put The Exorcist in the S tier. I know that movie really was like when we talked about it, like you.
It's a 10 out of 10. It's a really great movie.
Yeah. And then I thought Beverly Hills Cop would be an A. You put it as a S. I'm fine. I mean that. Yeah, I was right there with it. So,
are you surprised with any?
I'm surprised with. I'm surprised with Hook. I know you were a big fan of Hook.
Yeah, and I thought about it, but I really feel like C is a better tier for it.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm not particularly surprised. There was nothing that was that far out of rank. I guess if I were to pick one, I was surprised you ranked Halloween as low. I thought it would have at least been a B for you.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking at yours, that was, I think, my biggest surprise was that you. Well, I'm just a little surprised Roadhouse made it to a C, and that Hook was a D because I know you didn't like Hook, but I felt like Hook would be better. But I think my biggest surprise is that Slapshot wasn't an S, just based on how much you love the hockey movies and that this was the best hockey movie, which means that there is no hockey movie, not even the Mighty Ducks, that could hit the S tier.
Oh, Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks is gonna. We'll watch that one day. I need to have a bunch of beers before that. No, I would say I was surprised you didn't rank Halloween higher. That would have been my one surprise.
Let's rank these now. Of the 10, from least favorite to favorite. I'll go first, and then you'll go, and we'll just go back and forth. So starting at number 10, for me, this was an easy one because it was my only D-tier film. So for me, no doubt, Roadhouse is number 10 on my list of when you talk about movies in order. Roadhouse was the worst of these 10.
So can you guess it, Joe? What my 10?
I got it. I'm already on it. I'm no surprise that yours is number 10.
Spies Like Us. So we'll have a quick debate here, a 30-second debate. You would rather watch Spies Like Us again than Roadhouse? Is that
I would watch Spies Like Us more often than 1, 2, 3, 4 films on this list.
Oh my God! Well, there's nothing else to talk about. We disagree.
I thought it was funny, but that's okay. It's okay. I think Roadhouse is a terrible movie. I did not like Roadhouse. I really didn't like it. I thought the writing. I mean, at the point when the bear falls down, that was just it for me. The movie, and there was so many moments like that between the beginning to the end. Just not a good movie.
Yeah, it wasn't much
so
better.
Let's
it was.
Let's go to your number 9 next, and we'll go backwards on this one. So what's your number 9?
My number 9 would be Hook.
That doesn't surprise me entirely. That your number 9 movie would turn out to be Hook. You would rather watch Hook than Spies Like Us?
I would.
Okay.
I thought it was shooting for more. The scenes with Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins with the "Don't try to stop me, try to stop me," and he needs therapy are kind of amusing. It's a little amusing.
Dustin Hoffman makes a great Hook, by the way. I actually really thought he was good.
He's all right. Okay.
Now you're starting to make me think Hook should be higher on my list.
No. What is your number 9?
My number 9 is Cocktail.
Okay.
I wanted to like this movie again so bad. I really, really wanted to like it. I loved it as a kid. Maybe it was because I was seeing sex and the fun of alcoholism and not the downsides of it. I don't remember the second half being so terrible.
Great selling point. The fun of alcoholism.
Oh. Exactly. Maybe this movie is just a true story of alcoholism. You start out having fun, and you end up with a slit throat on a boat.
Maybe we overlooked something, because that is a very true point. It starts out fun, and then it becomes not so fun.
Next thing you know, you have a beer belly and a slit throat on a boat. I don't know.
Might be.
It might be that. I don't know. Moving on. So when I go to my number 8 film, this is probably going to be a surprise. My number 8 film is going to be Halloween.
That is a surprise. Yeah,
maybe it even surprises me a little bit. I liked it, but I don't know. It was slow at times. I don't know. It just wasn't my style of horror film. I would rather watch Child's Play, frankly, than Halloween.
Okay.
I'd rather watch Spies Like Us than Halloween.
That's probably going to be the biggest gap in our things, because everything else is more or less the same.
I would think so. So what was your number 8?
So my number 8 is going to be Roadhouse.
Okay. That terrible movie makes it into your top 8, huh?
Top 8 out of 10.
That made it into your top 8? Are you kidding me?
Out of 10. No, just because it was so bad that I could laugh at it, and the two that are beneath it on my list, I couldn't even laugh at, and one of those is a comedy.
Right. One of those is a comedy. That's a bad comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And yeah, Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott are charming guys. But for all the reasons you said, yeah, I just I don't know. I just felt like there was so much in it that was so bad, or not even so bad, trying too hard to be this dramatic,
Yeah.
intense movie that I could just laugh at it. And that's why it's ranked above those other movies.
Right, right. All right, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Cocktail. Still, not great. We're still on the lower end of things.
Yeah. Cocktail made your top 7? Just kidding. All right, now that joke has gotten old. All right, Joe.
Yeah, well, you're duplicating what they do in Spies Like Us. Keep telling the same joke over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
Eventually, you'll laugh if it lasts there long enough, right?
Maybe not.
Yeah,
I certainly didn't.
Right.
Cocktail, yeah, an okay movie at best, and again, a lot of fun in the beginning, and then just kind of which is interesting because everything above Cocktail on my list, I would say I liked. Cocktail was like the turning point of I liked it, and then it kind of the movies below it I didn't like.
I was gonna say I think honestly that's the same for me, except for Cocktail lands at 9. So the only 2 movies I didn't really like was Cocktail and Rosa. I'm easy to please, guys. I'm a pie in the face kind of guy. So really for me, all of them were good, with the exception of Roadhouse and then Cocktail. Like Cocktail, okay. If I only watched an hour of that movie, I'd be like, this is a good movie. So for the most part, 1 through 9 are pretty decent films for me. For me, if I had to put this in order, the next movie that stands out for me it's going to be Hook. It comes into my number 7 spot. Okay. I think Dustin Hoffman makes a good Hook. I think the setup is good. I do think that there could be a funny film made about Hook and his psychological problems and him sitting on the couch, with Smee being the therapist and, don't let me do it, Smee. Don't let me do it, Smee. Stop me, Smee. Like he's like about to pull the gun on it, and he's like, Smee, why won't you stop me? So good movie. I would watch Hook again. So even though it's 7, it's a good movie. But again, I'm easy to please. So like all these movies are good for me. When I look, so where we get to now is we start getting into that B tier where now we've got 3. Well, I had 3 movies in the C tier, and I have 3 movies in the B tier. We start to get into, okay, where do we put these? For me, the next one is Spies Like Us. So Spies Like Us, Hook, those could have been technically interchangeable. I have a nostalgia for Spies Like Us. I really do. I think it's just because as a kid watching it with family, just that the memories of it, thinking I was watching Spies Like Us and getting Porky's, like those are moments like you just can't really like forget as a kid, right?
Porky's, that's a good.
And actually it was Porky's the shower scene specifically I remember watching, thinking I was getting Spies Like Us, and I actually for a long time thought the shower scene was in Spies Like Us because of that. So I thought like, ooh, Spies Like Us is a great movie. It's got this shower scene where you're they're looking through these little peepholes, and when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, you look for those types of things. So I think that's why I have to put Spies Like Us at such a high level. But that's where it belongs to me.
Okay.
What's your next? What's your number 6?
I'm moving up to the B category, and for me it would be The Burbs.
Okay.
Because it's a fun movie. There's not a ton of craft to it.
It's very simple.
It's very simple, but it's not bad. It makes you laugh, and there is kind of an interesting mystery. Are they all just crazy, or is this family actually doing something? And then it turns out that they solve the mystery, and the truth comes out. I think I even said this when we were doing the tier thing. It's a middle of the road movie for me, so I rank it at 6. And it's a decent comedy that is worth a watch every now and then.
One of my favorite lines. I just want to stay home and barbecue and have like 30 or 40 beers.
Well, now if we're judging it on that line speaks to both of us. Oh yeah.
That's my kind of movie. That's my favorite vacation.
Oh, you drink a couple 100 beers. Yeah. Who doesn't want to do that? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that must mean I'm no detective here, but that must mean that Child's Play hits your number 5 spot.
It does. That's right. Yeah, I'm up next. Child's Play is number 5. Yeah. Just because there is a level of craftsmanship to it that we talked about,
Yeah.
where you look at all the other Chucky movies and they're all just kind of like basic, let's have the doll murder people, but this one does not do that because Chucky hadn't been invented yet, and there's a craft and a skill and a build-up to it and an artistry to it that like is we talked all about it. And because of that,
I'm starting to actually question some of my own picks here now.
Because of that, I mean, I can't really rank it higher because it is still an evil killer doll. There's only so much you can do with that plot line.
Right.
But yeah, I would rank it. It was in the B, but it was a B plus, and so it's number 5 to me for me.
So for me, my number 5 was The Burbs. Kind of like where you're saying it is a simpler movie. I look at it, and Halloween has a craft. There's no doubt about it. It just didn't land for me because it's a horror film and a genre I don't even really like. And then it was on top of that super artsy, which I also really generally don't like in movies. I'm not a big fan of movies that are just like, look at me, I can do all these cool magic movie tricks. I'm like, show me comedy, show me fast. I'm a pie in the face, right? So the Burbs hits that for me. It's definitely better than Spies Like Us. Probably better than Hook. So for me, this is kind of like this top 5 of the 10 that as we started to get into it. And of course, it has a line about drinking 30 or 40 beers on a weekend. I can get behind that, And then the weird golf one where he comes out and he's like super selling. He's like, I'm going golfing. He's got his hat on, and it's just like, oh my god,
30 to 40 beers in a weekend. Didn't you do that tonight?
Not yet. No, that's you. This is only my first drink. That's why I'm.
Tonight I drank more than Joe, which is unusual.
This is a I'm actually why I'm like bright-eyed and I'm not slurring and I sound normal and I'm not talking complete nonsense. Although maybe my movie picks are nonsense.
I had to drink
lost
because
my mind.
I had to drink.
You knew
because I knew that Spies Like Us was going to rank higher than it should have on your list.
You are right about that. So then for me, I move into the number 4. Oops, that's the wrong button. I move into number 4, and that's where we get into Child's Play. So yeah, I actually think Child's Play was a really good movie. Which is weird considering the type of movie it is. It is unrealistic that a guy transfers his body into a doll and it definitely lingered at the end where they kill the doll, but then the doll's not dead, and then they kill the doll, and then the doll's not dead, and then they blow up the doll and burn it and kill it and blow it up and kill it and shoot it 17 times, but it's still not dead. You were 10 inches away from it. You could have just stabbed it in the heart at one point, which was the whole thing they told you, and yet you shot its leg off and shot its arm off and shot, outside of that, Child's Play was I actually really like Child's Play. I could see why it spawned the franchise that it did, for sure.
Okay, number 4 on my list is probably going to shock Joe because he thought it would be higher, but I'm going to go with Slapshot.
It shocks me, but not as much now that I saw how you're going to rank the other. In fact, I'm pretty certain I can pick your last 3 are going to go Halloween, Beverly Hills Cop, and The Exorcist. That's what I think is going to happen. But
we'll see.
That's what it looks like to me, if I had to guess on the last 3.
We've talked. I've talked all about Slapshot. I try to distance my love for hockey from the film.
Okay, that's good. That's partial.
Try
unlike me and Spies Like Us.
He's a fan of Spies. No, I want to see Major League, and when you see his video of Major League,
no. I don't know how. Okay, so Major League. When we get to this, guys, first off, Brian had like 27 different technical difficulties that night, which is no worse than what I had in a movie we're not even gonna talk about because we haven't even talked about it yet. But Ryan had like 10 difficult. Like we literally lost recording multiple times. I think I had gone out prior to watching the movie. Oh, by the way, little side story on Child's Play. We watched that like 3 times. Twice. Because the first time Ryan literally cut the plug and said, "Joe, we can't watch this. You're too trash. We need to watch it another night." Because I had gone out and hung out with some really close friends. I literally walked home barefoot to get to my computer to watch Child's Play in time to watch it. After having had a few beverages over there, we started watching it. At one point, he was like, "Yeah, let's just time out." He's like, "Time out, Joe. Like, we're gonna do this. Let's watch this tomorrow or the next day." And we did. We took a couple days and we watched it. It was definitely. We only watched about 15 minutes before Ryan was like, "Yeah, no."
I put Joe in timeout, Joe.
Yeah, right. I wish he'd have done that on Major League when we get to that. You'll see it. Major League was it was fun.
But when we get to Major League, you've got to tell me you're not going to put your love of baseball before the movie because it's a good movie on its own. Without
it is a decent movie.
Team. It's a good movie, but more on that later. Slapshot. I love hockey, but I try not to put that ahead of what I think of the movie. Because there are some critiques. The movie, it's a little long. Right. Over 2 hours for a sports comedy. It's a little bit long, and I get that they have this real world kind of problem in it of the steel mill closing and everything. But as much as I like that, the movies that go above it are just better edited, better paced.
Okay.
But dude, Slapshot. I mean,
yeah, it's a good movie.
I laugh my ass off on this. And Paul Newman is so charming in it, and he's such a lovable guy, and the way he handles all the problems. But the way
he's a bad guy, by the way. He's the bad guy in the movie.
He does create when his team goes up against the other team, and he goes on the radio station, "I'm placing a bounty on the head."
Right. Or he tells the goalie, he's like, "Your wife's a muff diver."
Right. I'm sure anybody watching the NFL playoffs right now wishes that certain players would have bounties placed on their head.
Yes, I can think of one. I think you have an entire team I'm rooting against.
I think we can both root against an entire team. But it's fun stuff, and like the other movies that we'll maybe talk about, it has this real world vibe to it. It's a little long. So no, it's number 4, but honestly, at this point, we're talking process of elimination for me.
Yeah, literally. So what's your number 3 then? So I think I know the order, but let's see what you got.
My number 3 would be Halloween, and this is the biggest difference on our list. Everything else, as much as we will joke, and I didn't like Spies Like Us. You liked it. Like it's very even, except for this movie.
Yeah, Spies Like Us and Halloween are probably the two biggest discrepancies, right? I have Spies Like Us a bit higher, and
where was Spies Like Us for you?
I had it in 6.
Oh, that's terrible. No,
and I had Halloween at 8. So
it's the same. Yeah. So these are the two.
Yeah, it's like the two big discrepancies, and I think it just goes to biased nostalgia versus style and art and artistic venture of a movie, right? So. Yeah, for me, I look at my list and this one was probably my third favorite of the one, which surprised me because it's an old movie, but I think that Slapshot is top 3 of what we watched. I look at the list, I'm like, is there anything else I would like? I would watch Slapshot over any one of those movies right now. It's a fun movie.
It's funny, man.
I do have some critiques. It is long. Like, there's no doubt it is long. There's definitely a section or two that are long. But I think the old school vulgar language, the things that you can get away with in the 70s you can't get away with today, all of those things fit really well in this movie. It is just a tremendous sports movie, and that's its own special category because not all sports movies are good. There's some really good ones.
Well,
not
I think
all of them are good.
But we talked about this when we watched Major League. I think that this movie inspired a lot of other movies.
I think very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Just the dumb sports comedy, and a lot of them didn't get it right. Major League got it right.
Major League gets it right.
If I were to rank Major League against Slapshot, I wouldn't rank it quite as high, but it's still like there's a lot of bad sports comedies, and Major League was not one of them. It got it right.
You say Mighty Ducks, you're saying is one of them.
schedule it, and we'll talk about that shit.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so for me, then that leaves us two movies: Exorcist and Beverly Hills Cop. This is our final two. For me, the number two movie would be Axel Foley, Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. It was close. It wasn't.
I agree.
Quite, it was close, but I think Beverly Hills Cop can't quite pull out that number one position. I think Exorcist is just a movie beyond its time, just very well done. And it's, like I said, it's a movie that has sat with me for so long after we watched it that it sits special. Now, Axel Foley is great. I actually, maybe even in the next 10 movies, we'll be watching Beverly Hills Cop 2. It's one of the movies that's on my list of like, what should we watch next? I think Beverly Hills Cop 2 might be on that list. I really liked Beverly Hills Cop. It is by far the second best movie in this. Very close. If you said, Joe, which one do you want to watch? I would probably almost always choose Beverly Hills Cop because I hate being scared. I hate being scared.
Well, that's different, and you might as well just put it on my thing too. Pull up my thing and put it as second because it is second. And I think we can agree though that like on a different level, Exorcist is a more frightening, dramatic level, but this one on a comedy level has that sense of realism and that you believe that this is a real thing that's happening. And as much as you might watch, I'm trying to think of an action comedy that doesn't have that. Men
in Black, maybe?
Well, okay, fine. Men in Black. That's an action comedy with some sci-fi vibe. That is a funny movie, and you laugh at it, but obviously it's not real. It means more to you, and it hits more to you when it's real. And Beverly
Have you
Hills
seen
Cop,
Turner? Have you seen Turner and Hooch?
Oh God, it's been a while. Put that on the list.
That might be on our list. Yeah, that might be on the list. Sorry, go ahead.
With the dog, yeah. But I think you said this when we were watching it, that you could believe that this would be a news report that you might read on your phone or in a newspaper. Like like it's just so simple. It doesn't rely on special effects, which we'll talk about in The Exorcist next. It's all there on the screen, but it's so funny.
Yeah, it no doubt. That's the other thing too. Like even in the gun battles, they're realistic. They're not like 27 shots and like no one's reloading. I mean, there's a great scene where Taggart and whatever the kid's name is, Judge Reinhardt's character, Rosewood. He's sitting there and he's like, this reminds me of the whatever the Alamo. It wasn't the Alamo, but whatever the Sundance Kid. They're out. Butch Cassidy, and he's like reloading, and Taggart's like, I'm gonna kill you, and he's like close to retirement. I think Lethal Weapon came out after this, right?
Yeah, it did, and that's another movie. Put it on the list. We should probably.
So Lethal Weapon was like very much probably inspired by that, like those two. I look at Taggart and Rosewood as Lethal Weapon's two characters, right? Kind of the young hotshot cop, and then the I'm about to retire. I'm getting too old for this shit, Right.
No, it's true. But even like the opening scene where he's pretending to be the drug dealer, and then the cops chase him.
Oh, it's so
with that
great.
Big semi. It's filmed like you would see it on a news report. It's not CGI. It's just like they went out into a street and they filmed it. And it looks so good and so real, and it's funny. And you don't see that in a lot of modern-day action films.
No.
I will tell you, the new Beverly Hills Cop, which I'll leave you to watch for yourself, it does rely a little bit on...
I may make you watch it with me, even though you've already seen it.
I'll watch it again, and we'll talk about it. It relies a little bit on CGI. A little bit.
Oh, does it?
A little bit.
I watched the trailer of it. I actually didn't think the trailer looked that great. I don't think it did itself any justice. I didn't think the trailer really did it justice at the end of the day. I felt like it. I was like, I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I'm like, it just doesn't seem like it would be that good of a movie personally. But
it was good, but it was not on the level of this where it just has the funniness. I mean, it was funny. I did laugh, but it didn't have that level of craftsmanship of like. I'm watching something that takes place in the
probably
real
doesn't
world.
have that love and that newness to it. It'll be interesting to see. We'll watch Beverly Hills Cop 2 at some point, maybe even Beverly Hills Cop 3. It'll be interesting to see how those all roll in. But obviously that leaves you the number one spot being the greatest film of the 10, The Exorcist.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the greatest films of all time. I mean, we could watch other prestigious movies, and this film would rank right alongside it. I just still am so happy that this movie resonated with you, because we've talked a lot about how we can kind of be opposite with some of the movies we like, but clearly not with this one.
No, The Exorcist was, and honestly, I went back and forth between whether Exorcist or Beverly Hills Cop would be my movie, like my top movie of these 10. And I think I have to give it The Exorcist because it was made in the 70s and it created something special. Whereas Beverly Hills Cop, yeah, it had 3 movies. It was a good movie and it definitely was great in that genre. And I would, yes, if you said, Joe, do you want to watch The Exorcist or Beverly Hills Cop? I'd say Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah. The only time I might choose The Exorcist is if it was Halloween and I was looking for a good psychological screw my brain up. Even in editing, I didn't edit The Exorcist. Mac did. And even Mac said, like, he's had some issues and it was hard, and specifically around this kind of stuff. And he was like, it's hard for him to edit this a little bit because it was like, it gets to you. It like hits you in a weird way. And so,
yeah, it's just, it's the level of importance. I was having a conversation with someone, and I might have told you about this, but when you look at Steven Spielberg and all these great movies that he's done, Hook, not one of his better movies, but it's not.
I agree.
All these great films that he's directed, one of which is Schindler's List, the very important Holocaust movie.
I haven't seen Schindler's List.
This very important film that does so much good in the story it tells about Oskar Schindler saving the Jews from the Holocaust. And he can also go and he can direct Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones.
Right.
So which film was better? That's hard.
That's hard. Well, it's genre based. The
textbook answer would be Schindler's List.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest movies of all time, apparently.
It is.
I should have my producer card and director card and actor card revoked for having never watched Schindler's List, to be honest with you. There's a few movies like that where I'm like, I probably shouldn't even be talking about movies I've never seen. So after we're not watching those ones.
And it is a great film, but you ask any person across America, hey, buddy, you're sitting down with your girl on a Saturday night.
Yeah, right.
And you've got 2 movies to choose from. Schindler's List or Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
What are they going to pick? You and JD, what are you going to pick to watch on date night? Exorcist or Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, Beverly Hills Cop, 100%.
So there you go.
There's a much better chance I get some after watching Beverly Hills Cop than if I'm watching the because I'm going to be scared. Although, you know what they say, when you watch a horror film with a girl, she wants to cuddle more, but
what are you going to have more fun watching? It's Beverly Hills Cop, but.
Yeah. For sure.
What stuck with you more, and that's the power of cinema, and there's a clear answer there.
Exorcist is the better movie. So those guys, I mean, those are the 10. So those are the 10 movies we watched. Like I said, this is something that we're going to do every 10 movies. We will likely put this on Patreon, and maybe I'll say maybe we'll put this behind a Patreon. Maybe we'll put this behind the YouTube membership. This is one of those inside movie things. Although, if you guys like it, let us know. Leave comments. Tell us. Subscribe. If this is something you guys really like and want to see more of, we'll just keep doing it because we want to, we're trying to grow a channel. We're brand new at this. We're at the very beginning stages. We have 10 movies out at the time of record. Well, we have 10 movies out. Technically, The Exorcist isn't even out, even though it was out briefly, but it's not really out. So technically, we'll have 10 movies out at the time when we recorded this. We've got 2, 3, 4 that we've recorded, and so we're just a few movies ahead. So we're still learning. We're crafting. So tell us below what you guys think. What would your 10 be? I'd be very curious to your guys' 10. Are we crazy? Does this work? Does it doesn't work? And of course, if you're new here and you haven't done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Head over to the Patreon. Support us over there. We do appreciate it. 100,000 subscribers, guys. We'll watch Shutter some. Worst movie ever made. Maybe if we get to the magical 1,000 subscribers, we'll watch something that we actually are okay with, like Tap It or something like that we've made. We'll share that. We'll watch it. Maybe something along those lines. But for now, the big goal is if we get to 100,000, I'll let you guys watch the worst movie ever made. And Ryan and I will be embarrassed, probably really drunk. In fact, maybe we'll just make it a drinking. Maybe we'll do it live and make it a drinking episode, and we'll just get trashed. So I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know if I can even watch it.
One more thing before we sign off.
Yeah, of course.
Spies Like Us #5.
I told you there's a nostalgia to it.
Get out of here. Sign off. Sign off.
It's a nostalgia.